think you may have heard about these demonstrations, Extinction Rebellion. They're like a protest group. They claim to be caring about the environment, and human activity and consumption are destroying the planet. And they stage these die-in protests where they go, it looks like they're at the Museum of Natural History here, and they're all lying on the floor saying that they're all dead because we ruined the environment. Let me just read a statement about this type of phenomenon. The Bible gives the negative commandment, thou shalt not kill, as well as the positive commandment, be fruitful and multiply. And traditionally they have gone together. But being fruitful and multiplying is seen by anti-humanists as itself a form of killing, because it deprives future generations and other species of irreplaceable resources. The flourishing of humanity can no longer be seen as good. Instead, it becomes part of a zero-sum competition that pits the gratification of human desires against the well-being of all of nature, not just animals and plants, but soils, stones, and water. In this viewpoint, if we are being fruitful and multiplying, then that's hurting nature, essentially. Human beings are like a virus, like a dangerous virus that needs to be eliminated. In an essay by Adam Kirsch, The People Cheering for Humanity's End, and this was published in the Atlantic magazine in December of 2022. So human flourishing is, I thought this was very interesting. It's like hurting animals and plants. Okay, I could maybe see what you mean, but also soil, you're hurting soil and stones. Those stones are being hurt by us reproducing. I don't get that, okay? I can't quite make that connection. The stones are upset because we're reproducing. Okay, I didn't see any stones complaining yet. So we actually have a conflict of two worldviews. If we look at Genesis 1:27, it says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. And what does this imply? Well, it implies that we are created in God's image. Therefore, human life is sacred. It also refers to the goodness of the man-woman relationship in creating new life. It also implies that each human being should be equal before the law, with their rights to speak, to worship, to engage in commerce, to due process by trial, and to self-defense guaranteed in a written constitution. If you believe that human life is sacred and created in God's image, it implies the idea of human rights, God-given rights, not given by government, but given by something that is higher than government. So, the revolutionaries in 1776, we have no king but King Jesus, that type of idea. We have the biblical worldview as expressed in John chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. You have the idea that the world was created through the Word of God. What is a word? A word is expression of an intention, by an intelligent being. Okay, that's what a word is. What it means is that the world was not just the result of some random process. It was the result of an intelligent design, basically, the intention of God. And what does that imply? That there was an intention, there were laws, there was a purpose that existed before we came onto the earth. And that is something we can learn about, we can investigate that, and it's something to be honored and respected. We did not create ourselves, and we are not our own cause. Did anybody here, did you choose to be born? Raise your hand if you chose to be born. I don't know anybody who actually intentionally caused yourself to come into being, okay? There's something beyond us that created the world, created the universe, and created life, created human beings. And that is something that we can investigate and learn about. That is the basis of science. That's what science does. Scientists, good scientists, have a deep respect for for nature and the world. They give their lives, in some cases, to do research about it. Now, also, you look at the commandments, the 10 Commandments. So one of them is, you shall not bear false witness. Well, what does that mean? False witness implies that you can lie about something. You can tell something that's not true. That implies that the opposite of false is truth. It means there is truth. Also, you shall not covet. You shall not take things that do not belong to you, which means you don't have the right to take things that don't belong to you. That means there's a moral order that we all must follow or pay the consequences. You shall not steal, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder. So stealing means taking things that don't belong to you. Adultery means having sex with a person that you're not married to. Murder is about killing somebody without any moral justification, such as, self-defense. My main point here is that the Judeo-Christian worldview is the basis for scientific research. Throughout the Middle East, there were other religions, but they were all nature religions. They were basically the worship of the sky or the sun or river gods. There were all kinds of gods all over the place. And they were often seen as kind of capricious and very random. Nature can be very random. The weather can be very random, right? So these gods seem to be kind of very changeable and sometimes ill-tempered. And you might have to sacrifice your son or daughter to appease the rain god, right? Or Molech or some god in order to try to have a good crop or to end a drought. There wasn't the idea that these gods were very principled, had a moral order, that there was a truth that could be investigated. That was not the viewpoint. These are random, capricious gods, and they need to be appeased by us by doing something very radical, such as killing your own child, which was banned in the Jewish religion, of course. And the modern version of the anti-biblical viewpoint is postmodernism. Postmodernists say there's no truth. Your claim to be stating truth is just a self-interested truth claim, which is basically just benefiting yourself. That's a postmodern viewpoint. There's no absolute truth. There are just different groups proclaiming things which are really just benefiting their own elite status. And so what remains is just a struggle for power. Who can shout the loudest? And there is the attraction of grand causes. The environmentalists, look in the picture here, you see these two women, and they're wearing t-shirts, "Just Stop Oil." They smeared tomato soup on the Van Gogh painting. And they feel really righteous doing that. Why are they doing that? They're doing it to save the environment. Think how noble you might feel. You're doing something to impede other people's ability, or sometimes they block traffic. In different cities, you may see them literally blocking traffic for hours and hours. And people are stuck in traffic at rush hour time. And these demonstrators, they feel like they're doing the most righteous thing in the world. Not only are we doing something righteous, but we have to destroy those evil capitalists. We have to destroy those evil so-called white people or whatever group it is, whatever, it used to be the Jews, right? The Jews used to be the group that should be eliminated, and now it's expanded to light-skinned people in general, okay? It's kind of been expanded. Right? If you look at America, many of the people in America came here because they were escaping from really horrible persecution. You look at the Irish. The Irish were hated by the English, right? And persecuted and mistreated by the English. But because Irish people have light skin, now they're part of the oppressive class. So we can shame, cancel, shun, ban, deplatform, and erase the groups that we don't like. And supposedly that's going to solve some problem. Now, I can give you a pretty shocking example. There was a woman arrested by the English police for a silent prayer near an abortion facility. Ms. Vaughn Spruce. Okay, she was praying silently. That was her crime, and she's a pro-life, a volunteer. And she was arrested and charged after silently praying outside an abortion facility in Birmingham. She's the director of March for Life UK. And she was arrested on December 6, 2022, and charged on the 15th with 4 counts of breaking a public space protection order. We actually have the committing of a thought crime. She has committed a thought crime because she didn't even say anything, but it will be punished. When speech that you don't like is portrayed as violence, then violence can also be portrayed as speech. And one example that we see here in the United States is the threats to murder Supreme Court justices and attacks on pro-life centers. Yeah, so you see the graffiti on the pro-life center. If abortions are not safe, then you aren't either. And they actually arrested somebody who actually was outside the house, Justice Kavanaugh. He had a gun, and he had come there to assassinate Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Now, they would argue that their violence is just a form of speech. What is the end game of the climate change movement? Well, when you realize that they are framing the 8 billion population of the world as the enemy of the planet. 8 billion people were like a virus on nature. And there have been many calls, you can look this up, for reducing the world population to a sustainable 1.5 billion to 500 million population. So between 500 million people to 1.5 billion, that's what they say is sustainable. That would be about an 81 to 94% reduction in the human population. So I want to play a video. This is from the World Economic Forum. So let's listen. Basically praising how quiet it became during the COVID lockdowns. And there are also record reductions in air pollution. Yeah, so during the lockdowns, there's less carbon emissions, there's less noise pollution, and they could hear things in nature that they were not able to hear before. It's kind of implying that wouldn't it be wonderful if we had a less noisy world with fewer people? that's the, I mean, I don't see any other conclusion to take from this video. So we have billionaires buying farmland for conservation, but not food production. The American Prairie, a billionaire-backed company, is buying up land to recreate a 3 million acre version of the 1805 Great Plains. They're buying up farmland for the purpose of stopping all the farming on that land, and their intention is to return it back to the way it was in 1805. You could see bison and elk, antelope, prairie dogs, other wildlife that Lewis and Clark saw when they passed through the region in 1805. They're doing this, okay? Bill Gates and other billionaires are doing this. They're culling the herd. And when I say culling the herd, I mean the human herd. What are they looking at? Well, first of all, man as an economic being to be controlled by basically rewards and punishments. And this is being done in the name of a climate pandemic, fill-in-the-blank emergency. There's always an emergency, there's always a crisis, and with representative government replaced by centralized control by elites who use surveillance technology, artificial intelligence, and control of information and resources. Humans, like any other herd, must be culled to the carrying capacity of the environment. So they have this idea that the planet can only fit maybe 500 million, maybe 1.5 billion people. We've got 8 billion now. We've got to find a way to reduce the population and make room for other more deserving species. Now, if you think I'm exaggerating, I just want you to take a look at something that's going on in Canada. So there's this article is titled, "Another Canadian Forces Member Alleges Veteran Affairs Offered Assisted Death as support, quote, support." So let me read his testimony. "I was not expecting them to let me know, hey, we recently won litigation to assist Air Force members with MAID, which means medical assistance in dying. And you know, that's always an option," Bruce recalled, his voice steady but quavering. He was told in his original phone call, where he was offered medical assistance in dying, "We can do it for you because we've done it before. And one veteran that we've done this for, after we completed MAID, after we killed him, we now have supports in place for his wife and 2 children." He added that the caseworker allegedly told the veteran that medical assistance in dying was a better alternative to blowing your brains out. This is from the government-provided medical and psychological support, in this case for veterans. Okay, so this is why socialized medicine may not be such a great idea, because you may end up in a situation where your patients represent dollar signs of expenses that need to be reduced. Canada euthanized 10,064 people in 2021, an increase of over 32% over 2020. Now, we even have an assisted suicide activity book for children. Okay, so medical assistance in dying is defined in the booklet as the use of medicines to stop a person's body from working. So it describes 3 medicines that are given to somebody to assist them in dying. The first medicine makes a person feel very relaxed and fall asleep. They may yawn or snore or mumble. The second medicine causes a coma. A coma looks like sleep but is much deeper than regular sleep. The person will not wake up or be bothered by noise or touch. The third medicine makes the person's lungs stop breathing, and then their heart stops beating. Because of the coma, the person does not notice this happening and does not hurt. When their heart and lungs stop working, their body dies. It will not start working again. This often happens in just a few minutes, but sometimes, rarely, it can take hours. Just unbelievable. This activity book for children.
So Margaret Marcella is a mother who lives outside Toronto, Canada. She's got a 23-year-old son who suffers from depression and diabetes. Also, he doesn't have a girlfriend. On that basis alone, doctors have just approved her son's assisted suicide. A doctor called Joshua Tepper signed off on it to kill the boy because he's sad and doesn't have a girlfriend. We know this because of the Substack Common Sense. You can read the details, and you should. They're shocking. This is about to become a lot more common in Canada as a way of cutting down on healthcare costs. By March, a new law in Canada is expected to allow children to be killed by doctors, by state doctors, without the approval of their parents.
Okay, coming back to the U.S., there were 2 sisters, Leah Amory, 54, and her sister, Susan Fraser, in her 40s. They're both high-achieving, popular, and seemingly healthy, happy medical professionals. And they traveled to Basel, Switzerland from their home in Arizona on February 3rd of 2022. Ms. Amory, a palliative doctor, and Ms. Fraser, a nurse, who had recently been promoted to a senior leadership position at Aetna Health Insurance, where they both worked. The sisters' laughter-filled stories always revolved around each other, friends recalled. Ms. Fraser, who had a high-pressure job looking after acutely ill patients, was able to, quote, laugh the stress away. They didn't tell any family or friends that they were intending to end their own lives. So these are 2 women. They're perfectly healthy. There's no cancer. There's no threatening, painful threat to their lives. They're both in their, middle age, and they're choosing to fly to Switzerland to have assisted death. And if you look at the headline, it says, American Sisters Assisted Suicide in Switzerland spurs call for more U.S. states to adopt aid in dying laws. So this article is basically saying more states need to have more laws. Like, apparently there are some states where, I believe it Washington State and Oregon, I believe, but they think more states need to do this. Celebrated antinatalist philosopher David Benatar argues that the disappearance of humanity would not deprive the universe of anything unique or valuable. Essentially, there are people, intellectuals, educated people who are looking forward to the disappearance of humanity or most of humanity, and arguing that it would really not deprive the universe of anything unique or valuable. And you can see this is the end game, I would say, of when people abandon their faith in God, right? When you abandon the viewpoint that life is precious and sacred, then you're kind of on the road to thinking, hey, if we get rid of some COVID-19 patients like Governor Cuomo did, I think about 10,000 or more COVID-19, these were senior citizens in nursing homes who are very expensive to take care of. No one's complaining about that. They removed him from office not because he initiated the murder of more than 10,000 senior citizens. It's because of some alleged sexual harassment. Okay. So then my question is, if humans are created in God's image, then who wants to erase that? I'm just asking. Think about this. If we are created in God's image, then who wants to erase us? Who wants to erase us?